I'm Zach Alvarez, and this is my hero portrait project for Bob Ross. I chose Bob Ross because he is an icon as an artist and a TV personality for his TV show The Joy of Painting from the late 80s and 90s. Um, and growing up, I remember watching his reruns of his show when I was a kid with my mom, and that kind of inspired me to become an artist and be very creative myself. And a little fun fact, Bob Ross was in the Air Force, and I was also in the Air Force for 6 years. So a little connection there, another reason to choose him. And for my composition, I wanted to obviously feature the portrait of him and make it very clear and obvious who it was. And that included the iconic afro that he had. And for the background, I wanted to make it relative without being overpowering or something predictable. So there was not going to be any happy trees in my background for this because I felt like everybody you've seen a million T-shirts and designs out there with little happy trees and stuff, and behind Bob Ross or with Bob Ross. So I went with a palette that was kind of reminiscent of the palette that he would use, which is in that shape, and then use the swatches to explain that to help depict that palette appearance. For the monochromatic, I went with blue, not because it's a color I like to use, but also I felt it fit the vibe of Bob Ross, and his paintings that he was known for and he would do on his TV show were usually mountainscapes and had lots of blues in them. And then he's known for his little phrases of like happy clouds and fluffy little clouds. So all of that is very sky color based, which lends itself to the blue monochromatic scheme. For the complementary colors scheme, I chose like a violet and yellow color hues of those of that alike, because it's colors I don't normally work with, and I wanted to try them out and see what they would look like and how they would fit the portrait. For a split complementary, I did a blue and a yellow and an orangey kind of vibe. Again, just to keep with the happy, almost 60s vibe of, peace loving vibe that Bob Ross would give off, and very bright and happy like he was. And then double complementary had like a purple magenta-ish color with a very pale yellow and orange, like a peachy orange, and then a blue, almost purple shade of blue, or violet shade of blue. And I felt like that was just very psychedelic and funky, like he was. And then analogous is similar to the blue monochromatic, but allowed for more shades and variations, and so I have like a very yellowish green color. Um, and then it just allowed for more depth to the portrait, I felt like. And then triadic is the primary triadic was red, yellow, and blue, but I changed them a lot, the saturations and brightness and all that, to give it a very different vibe versus what might be normally considered like a grade school primary of red, yellow, and blue. And I wanted it. I purposely did that to give more character and almost a nostalgic vibe to the portrait. And I feel like those three colors are very patriotic colors as well. And Bob Ross is kind of seen as like an American hero sometimes, or at least to some artists and some people, an American icon at least too. So I wanted that Americana kind of vibe as well. So for my final design, I chose to go with the analogous color, just because I felt like it fit Bob Ross's vibe the most, and the color schemes of what he was known for, and fit his personality really well without being like a depressing blue, blue tones. And these are the screen separations for that. And one thing I noticed when I was doing the screen separations was the lining around the eyes had actually stayed black when I had initially done my color relationships, and it didn't get picked up. And so when I did this, I tested them to make sure they all looked right on top of each other. I noticed the eyes were kind of having like this glowing from the transparency layer behind it all, and I had to go back and color it to make sure that it picked up the lining around the eyes for all my color relationships. And then this is how it looks on the t-shirt mock-up, and this is what sold me to go with the analogous, was having the ability to have that very bright bluish green color for a t-shirt and being a dominant color for the whole design. And I think it just fits Bob's personality without using any blacks or whites to be too stark of a color. And that's my portrait project.